Welcome back to step 7 in the Just the Basics Notary Training video series. For the past 6.5 weeks, we've been going through the notarization process that I've been using for close to 20 years, and one that I highly recommend, especially to Alabama notaries. By the way, if this is the first video of mine that has come across your YouTube feed, let me know in the comments below. And if you are a longtime follower or subscriber of the channel, let me know that as well in the comments. In this video, I'll be reviewing step number 7 of the notarization process, the notary certificate or the notary block. You'll hear it referred to both ways. They're talking about the same thing. Remember, in step 1 of the notarization process, you reviewed the document to determine if there was anything at all about the form or the document or the signer that would prevent you from conducting the notarization. If there weren't any concerns, and we talked about the different concerns you might have, you're going to move on to step 2. In step 2, you verified the signer's identity. Step 3, you calculated and communicated to the signer what the notary fee would be for performing the notarization. In step 4, you confirmed that the signer is alert, the signer understands what they are signing, and that they are signing their name of their own free will. And if required, if it's a jurat notarization, step 4 is when you administer the oath or the affirmation. And then in step 5, you pulled out your trusty notary journal and recorded the notarization. And then finally, in step 6, which is the last video that was released, you verified the signer's signature, not only in your journal, but you also verified their signature or acknowledged their signature on the actual document or form. Now, if you missed any of those earlier steps, make sure that you watch those videos later. And the best way for you to make sure you don't miss any other videos would be for you to subscribe to the channel. Now let's go ahead and get started with step 7, the notary certificate or the notary block. Now this is the section of the form and notarization where most of the mistakes are made by the notary public. I kid you not. Well, to be honest or transparent, this is where this should be the only place on a document where the notary is doing any writing. And this is where the mistakes often are made. In fact, there are some infamous court cases documented in the press involving notaries and what they did or did not write in the notary certificate section. I get the impression that many notaries just aren't comfortable completing the notary block. Now, there could be other reasons for so many mistakes, but my guess is it's going to tie back to the notary not having proper training. And if you find the notary certificate to be difficult to complete or makes you nervous, I think you're going to really benefit from this video. And I'll be honest, I struggled with the notary block for about a year. I mean, this is when, when you get all the other steps out of the way, verifying their identity, asking about the form, that's dialogue. You're listening to the signer, but when you get to the block and you've got to do the writing, all eyes are on you, in most situations. And if you make a mistake, then you have to worry about, okay, how do I fix this mistake without messing up the entire form? Again, generally speaking, the notary block or the certificate is the only place that you, the notary, should be writing on the document. Make sure that you use an ink pen, not a pencil, and that ink pen should have either blue or black ink. Now, there are some states that specifically outline what color ink to use. Florida comes to mind for real estate documents. And in fact, many real estate documents will have instructions on what color ink to use. Those of you who are notary signing agents or are aspiring to be a notary signing agent, make sure you read the signing agent instructions carefully because it will be in there whether you should use blue or black ink. But generally speaking, in Alabama, you're safe with black ink. Electronic signatures are not allowed by the signer nor the notary on the notary certificate or the notary block. You heard me. Under no situation, and by the way, this video is being recorded in October 2024, and as of this date, electronic signatures, electronic notary signatures are not accepted when the document needs to be notarized. On most forms, the notary certificate or the notary block is found on the bottom of the form and on the last page of the document. I think it might be helpful for me to show you a couple of examples of what a notary certificate might look like. There are many versions of the notary block. Some may look like this. That is a sample acknowledgement notary block. Some may look like this. This is an example of a jurat notary block or certificate. But you shouldn't memorize this because I have seen notary blocks that are half a page long and are much longer than these examples. But I wanted you to be clear about what part of the form I'm referring to. Now, there's a whole lot that can be said about the notary certificate, but remember, just the basics is just the basics. I'm not getting into the weeds at all. This is not in-depth notary training. I'll talk more about that once we're done going through um, the notary block. When completing this section of the form, notaries should start at the top of the certificate and work their way down, filling in the blanks. So when I say the top, I mean here, and then work your way down to the end of the page. The venue is the section that asks for the state and county where the notarization takes place. You'll know you completed the venue correctly if, when you're done filling out the section, the state and the county names reflect where you were standing when you met with the signer and notarized their signature. Now, to be clear, the state should always reflect state of Alabama, because that's the only state where you can notarize signatures. That's the state that approved your notary commission. So that should be, Alabama should be the only state where you're performing notarizations. Nowadays, I perform 90% of my notarizations in Madison County. And so that's what I should write on the county of line, unless, of course, I get in my car and drive to Jackson County, Limestone, Morgan, DeKalb, and that's when I'm going to make sure, instead of writing County of Madison, I'm going to write County of Morgan. Now, if there isn't a notary certificate on the paper or the form, you cannot notarize the signature. Okay? You heard me right. If someone hands you a piece of paper and asks, and you look at it and they say, I want my signature notarized, or I want this notarized, and you look at it and there is not a notary block or notary certificate, you cannot notarize or apply your seal. Now, there is a workaround. There are steps you can take to add the proper notary block or certificate, but we are not able to get into that right now in this video. I will attach in the comments below a link to another video that I think will be helpful in those situations. I think it's important for you to know that Alabama recently issued guidelines about what needs to appear in the notary certificate. So you want to make sure that you review Alabama's new notary laws and the mandatory notary training course that is on the Alabama Probate Judges Association's website for more information about that. Going back to the venue for a moment. If the venue is pre-typed and already completed, make sure that it does reflect the correct state and county. If it does not, you should correct it by drawing a single line through the words and printing the correct information. Don't forget to initial any changes that you make. And keep in mind, the signer does not have to initial your corrections. Remember, you're only focused on the venue that is in the notary certificate section. I say this because you just might see the venue mentioned in other places on this document, especially if it's a multi-page document. Ignore those. It could be State of California, County of Los Angeles. Don't worry about it. The only venue you should concern yourself with is the venue that is reflected on the notary certificate or notary block. Remember, we started at the top. We're working our way down to the bottom of the certificate. We took care of the top, the venue. Now let's move down just a little bit to the body section. This section, the middle section of the certificate. Every certificate is different, but most will ask you to fill in the following information. Whatever you have to fill in by hand, make sure you print the information. Do not use cursive handwriting. You'll want to make sure the current date that you're meeting with the signer is entered. You want to make sure that you print the name of the signer. And some notaries get confused. They think that they need to print their name. Some certificates will ask for both signer's name and notary's name in different sentences. So you need to read through that middle section to make sure you enter the correct name in the correct blank. And what you see on the screen, that is clearly asking for the signer's name. All right. Some notary certificates may ask you to add the type of ID that the signer presented to you. And so if they showed you an Alabama driver's license, you're going to print or make a check mark next to Alabama driver's license. Some certificates may ask you to circle the pronouns that describe the signer. I've seen a lot of these. In fact, I had one about a week ago. I met with a gentleman, and the notary certificate, the body section, wanted me to circle he, him, his. All right. If it had been a female, I would have circled her, she, hers. And if it's two or more people that you're meeting with and their names are all in the middle section, you may have to circle they, their, them. However, those are, generally speaking, older versions of notary certificates, and I expect here in 2024 and going forward, you'll see fewer of those types of certificate and requirements in light of gender awareness. The form may also ask for you to insert your Alabama Notary Commission number. Alabama notaries are not assigned commission numbers, at least not as of 2024. Do I think that will change? Possibly in the future. But for right now, we don't have commission numbers. So instead, you should write none or not applicable. Don't waste your time calling around, looking at your commission and notary commission looking for a number. There are numbers on that, but they're tracking numbers, not your commission number. So don't guess or make something up. Just put none or not applicable. It won't be a problem. Again, all of the writing that you do in the notary block must be printed clearly, no cursive writing. There will also be a place for your title. Notary Public, that is your title. And generally speaking, you should add it right underneath your signature. There may be a place asking for your commission expiration date. This is a date you need to memorize. If you can't memorize it, write it down in the front of your notary journal. Now, notice what's on the screen. It's not asking for a commission expiration date, but guess what? It is a notary best practice that you add it every time you notarize anyway. This is a requirement, especially if the document is going to be filed at the courthouse for any reason. It is also required if you are notarizing an Alabama absentee voter affidavit form. So get in a habit of adding it for every notarization. Yes, there are Alabama notaries that will add the commission expiration date to their stamp, to their seal. And I get asked all the time, well, if it's part of my seal, can I just leave it blank? Do I still have to write it out? I do, because the clerk, the recording office, they may just see a blank space and want to reject it because it wasn't filled out. You can only notarize the signature of the person who met with you in person. If you only met with one person, the notary block should only contain one person's name. Again, looking at what's on the screen right now, if after the word by, there were two names, Adam and Eve Smith, but only Eve Smith showed up to meet with you, you're going to have to either cross out Adam's name and initial it because he was home watching the ball game, or you're going to need to attach a loose notary certificate reflecting just Eve's name. I know those of you who are brand new, you're not sure what I mean by that. Again, there'll be another video on attaching loose notary certificates. There should be a place in the notary certificate where you can add the date that you were performing the notarization. Nearly all documents require that you write the date as the day, the month, the year. Now, you and I know that's very different from how we normally write it here in the US, which is month, day, year. But for many legal documents, it's going to be the day followed by the month and then the 4-digit year. I hope that is helpful information to you. I am going to again attach a link to a video that is related to the notary certificate section. It goes into more detail. It's called Stop Using This Notary Certificate Form. And I did that video when the new notary laws came out 9/1/2023. So make sure you watch that. There may be something that I mentioned in this video that confused you or caused you to have additional questions. If so, please post it in the comments below. I'll make sure that I respond to all comments. And if you haven't done so already, take a moment to go ahead and subscribe to our Notaries for Alabama channel. That completes our review of step 7, complete the notary block. Be sure to check out the next video in Just the Basics series. That'll be step number 8, notaries signature and seal. I want to make sure that you want to make sure that you don't miss it. I want to encourage you to watch it. Now, if you're looking for more in-depth training, please consider registering for Notary Basics training for Alabama's notaries. When I do that training, either live or live in person or live online, it's about a 4-hour class. And that's another reason why I went ahead and I'm doing just the basics because I know not everybody has the time to carve out 4 hours. I want to thank you again for watching. I look forward to hearing from you, hearing your comments, and seeing you for the next video. Have a great rest of your day and happy stamping.